I opened the cafe 2 hours early that morning. The plan was simple: host a small baby shower before opening for regular business. Nothing flashy. I had string lights hung, soft acoustic music queued up, and pink paper garlands taped to the front windows. I even cleaned the espresso machine myself the night before, just so it would sparkle under the morning sun. My kid deserved something warm, something hers, even if she hadn't arrived yet. I paid for everything: the decorations, the food, the cake. I didn't ask my parents for a cent. I didn't want to. This wasn't about them. It was the one thing I thought I could control. A quiet celebration for my daughter and me. No drama, no shouting. Just coffee, cupcakes, and family. They started arriving just after 10. My cousin Mark brought a stuffed bear. My uncle handed over a gift bag that clinked when I shook it, probably another baby book. I felt good, for a moment, like maybe things would go how I imagined. Then my mom cleared her throat. She was standing near the espresso counter, holding up a glass like she was about to toast something. My dad was right behind her, beaming. My sister Jessica was fidgeting by the pastry case, trying to act surprised. I already knew what was coming. Before I could ask, she stepped forward and held up an envelope like it was a winning lottery ticket. "I got in," she said. "Harvard. Full ride." There was clapping, loud clapping, even a few cheers. Someone hugged her. Someone else moved the cake aside to make space for drinks. Just like that, the vibe changed. My daughter's celebration evaporated into thin air, replaced by college acceptance euphoria. I stood behind the counter, hands still sticky from refilling lemonade cups. No one looked at me. No one said anything about the baby. Jessica's friends started showing up, not mine. They brought backpacks, blasted music from Bluetooth speakers, and tossed their coats onto the gift table. At one point, someone asked, "Wait, is this a party or something?" I didn't answer. I just watched from behind the espresso machine as the celebration shifted. Not slowly, but instantly. From a baby shower to Jessica's going away bash. No one called it that. They didn't have to. They'd made it clear whose moment it was. I didn't say anything that night. Not when they shoved the banner I made, the one with my daughter's name, behind a hand-drawn "Congrats, Jessica" sign. Not when one of her friends spilled soda near the cake and walked away like it wasn't his problem. Not even when my own mother told me, "We'll cut the cake later, once things settle down." The cake never got cut. I wiped soda off the corner of the table, then crouched on the floor to blot frosting off the tiles with a stack of napkins. The cafe was packed, music thudding through the walls, people laughing, dancing, tossing crumbs everywhere like they didn't notice the guy on his knees cleaning up their mess. I was 8 months into this pregnancy. My back was screaming. My hands were sticky. But no one offered help. Someone even stepped over me to hug Jessica. Didn't apologize. Didn't pause. It was like I didn't exist. And I kept thinking, not just about that moment, but all the ones before it. Like when Jessica got private tutors, and I got told college was a scam. When I paid for rent and utilities while they called me lucky to live at home. When I opened the cafe with money I saved on my own, and they said, "It's good you're finally doing something useful." The resentment wasn't new. It didn't hit me like a surprise. It had been simmering for years. But that day, that was when it boiled over. Because they didn't just hijack a party, they erased me. And I realized I'd been letting them do it for a long time, but that was about to change. Quietly, I stood up. I walked into the back office, sat down at the tiny desk behind the pastry fridge, and opened the folder I'd been working on for weeks. Eviction notices. Labeled, dated, et.s. One copy for my mom, one for my dad, one for Jessica. I wasn't angry. Not in the shouting, slamming doors kind of way. I was done. Done being invisible. Done pretending this cafe, this life, was theirs to take over. They just didn't know it yet. The next morning, I woke up before anyone else. The cafe was closed that day. I'd planned it that way, thinking I'd spend the day resting, maybe going through baby gifts and prepping the nursery. Instead, I walked into a space that reeked of spilled soda, with confetti still stuck to the floor and a trash can overflowing with beer bottles. My playlist, the one I made for the shower, full of soft, instrumental lullabies, had been cut off halfway through a track. Someone had plugged in their phone and blasted pop music instead. They didn't even bother to stop it when they left. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I cleaned the espresso machine, refilled the napkin dispensers. I boiled water for tea, then walked to the main table in the cafe where the eviction notices sat, neatly stacked, right in the center. At 7:12 a.m., I heard the door to the apartment upstairs open, slippers dragging. My mom's voice was the first one I heard, except it wasn't my mom anymore. It was my dad, gender flipped, but still the same voice I grew up with, commanding, tired, always just a little disappointed. "Ethan," he mumbled, "you make coffee?" He stepped into the cafe's main room and stopped mid-step. The eviction notices were right in front of him. "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. I just sipped my tea. He picked up the top page. His brow furrowed. Then his face changed. "Ethan," he said again, louder now. "What the hell is this?" Footsteps upstairs. I heard my mom's voice next, high-pitched, groggy. Within seconds, Jessica was in the doorway too, her Harvard hoodie slouched off one shoulder. "You're kicking us out?" my mom asked, grabbing her copy. "You're joking," Jessica added, "right? This is some kind of sick joke." I finally looked up. "No, it's not. You can't do this," Dad said, flipping through the pages like the words might magically rearrange into something less threatening. "We've lived here for years." "Yes," I said, "rent-free." "That's not fair," my mom cut in. "We've helped. We've been here for you." I raised an eyebrow. "You turned my baby shower into Jessica's send-off party." Jessica scoffed. "Oh, come on. It was one announcement." "You invited your friends," I said calmly. "You took over the music. You trashed the place. You made it clear I wasn't the focus anymore. I was cleaning frosting off the floor while you gave hugs like it was your graduation ceremony." She crossed her arms. "It wasn't a big deal. It was to me." Dad stepped forward, tone shifting to something more diplomatic. "Look, emotions were high. You're under stress, I get it. But this is drastic. You don't really want us out. You had years," I said. "Years to show respect. Years to ask if I needed help with the cafe, with the bills, with anything. I gave, and you took." Mom's face reddened. "So you think you're better than us now? Just because you run some tiny coffee shop and have a kid on the way?" "No," I said, "but I'm tired of pretending we're equals when you've spent my whole life proving we're not." Jessica slammed her hand on the table, sending the papers sliding across the polished wood. "This is insane," she snapped. "You've been planning this? Seriously? You're kicking us out over a party?" I stood. "You've been taking up space in my life since the day I let you move in. That party just reminded me how little any of you think of me. I pay the mortgage. I pay the bills. I run this cafe. You treated yesterday like some clubhouse you were entitled to. And I'm done. Where are we even supposed to go?" Mom cried. "Do you expect us to be homeless?" I handed her another copy of the letter. This one with contact info for a local housing program and a friend who helped manage short-term leases. "I expect you to figure it out." Jessica looked like she might cry. "You don't mean this. I'm your sister." "Exactly," I said. "Not a guest of honor. Not a tenant. Not the star of my life. Just my sister." "You're heartless," Dad muttered. I shook my head. "No, I just finally found mine." They didn't know what to say after that. The room got quiet again. Heavy, awkward, expectant. "You have 30 days, I said. "Not because I'm cruel, because I'm generous." Mom tried another tactic. "So this is how you treat your family? After everything we've done for you? You mean how you let me pay the bills, run a business alone, and scrub floors at 8 months pregnant while you celebrated someone else?" Jessica turned to leave. This is so messed up. I didn't stop her. Dad followed, muttering something under his breath. Mom stayed behind, eyes wet. This isn't right, she whispered. You'll regret this. I looked her in the eye. Maybe, but not today. She stormed out. I walked to the counter, grabbed the spray bottle and cloth, and cleaned the surface where the eviction notices had sat. Then I opened the cafe door, turned the sign to closed, and locked it again. I didn't need customers that day. I just needed air and space, and to finally feel like my life belonged to me. For the first 3 days, the house above the cafe went silent. No yelling, no slamming doors, not even passive-aggressive sighs. Just this quiet, eerie stillness, like everyone was waiting for someone else to speak first. Jessica stopped blasting her music through the shared vent system. My mom, well, my dad, now stopped pretending to be cleaning the cafe kitchen, which mostly meant moving dishes around noisily without ever actually washing them. My mom, who used to spend hours gossiping on the phone in the corner booth, sat on the patio with a coffee mug she never refilled. It should have been peaceful, but it wasn't. It was the kind of silence that buzzes, that hums just below your skin, the kind that says, this isn't over yet. By day 4, I was proven right. It started with a phone call from my Aunt Rachel. Ethan, she said in that tone I remembered from childhood, the one that only came out when I did something concerning but not yet punishable. We heard what's happening, sweetie. Are you okay? I didn't answer, just waited. She cleared her throat. Your mom is worried sick. Says you've been acting strangely since the baby shower, that the stress might be affecting your judgment. There it was. They weren't confronting me directly anymore. They were recruiting. By the end of the day, I had 3 missed calls and 2 texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. All versions of the same message. We're just checking in. Your parents are so worried. Jessica's devastated. Maybe you could talk things through? The smear campaign had begun. My family had always been subtle manipulators. They didn't scream. They didn't throw dishes. They just made sure the right people heard the right version of the story. Theirs. I was now the unstable cafe owner, the soon-to-be single father making rash decisions, the ungrateful son pushing his family into the street because of some misunderstanding. They spun it as concern. I recognized it as control. Day 5, my dad cornered me in the back hallway where the pantry shelves were. We'll pay rent, he said, like it was a new idea. Bills too. We should have done that earlier. You're right. It almost sounded sincere until he added, but think about what this looks like to the rest of the family. Ah, there it was. The shame card. I said nothing, just walked past him, hands full of espresso beans. Day 7, Jessica tried something more. Dramatic. I came home from a supply run to hear her at the kitchen counter, talking loudly to someone on speakerphone. I've been trying to study, she said, but with all the stress, I can't focus. If I defer, I might lose my scholarship. And it's not like I have anywhere to go right now. The conversation paused. Yeah, she continued, glancing toward the door. He's completely changed. I don't even know who he is anymore. I walked in, grabbed the almond syrup off the counter, and walked right back out. Day 10, it got personal. My business partner, Alex, called me from her apartment across town. Hey, she said carefully, just a heads up, I got an anonymous email this morning. I froze. What kind of email? Someone, concerned, said, you might not be mentally stable enough to run the cafe once the baby comes. That we should consider future leadership. It read like a professional suggestion, but the tone was weird. My stomach didn't drop. It hardened. Forward it to me, I said. She did. The language matched almost exactly with a message my mom had once sent me in frustration a few months back. The same phrases, same odd capitalizations. They weren't just trying to turn family against me. They were trying to take my business from me. I didn't reply to the email. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Day 12, the gloves came off. My mom again, gender swapped, but still very much my mother in tone and delivery stopped me on the stairs. "You think you're strong now," she hissed, "but wait until that baby is born. When you're exhausted, overwhelmed, when the cafe is bleeding money, you'll come crawling back." I stared at her, dead-eyed. "I already realized I don't need you," I said. "That's why you're being evicted." She stormed off, muttering something about hormonal madness. On day 16, a uniformed sheriff's deputy knocked on the cafe's front door. I knew what it was before I even opened the envelope. They were contesting the eviction, hoping I'd crack under pressure, hoping the legal weight would scare me. It didn't. I'd already filed everything. Receipts, lease contracts, utility records. Every financial statement tied to the property was under my name. The hearing was just a formality. I wasn't bluffing, and they were about to learn that. Day 21, they turned up the drama. My dad sat on the cafe couch, sobbing loud enough for the patio customers to hear. He listed every fatherly act he could think of in random order. I took him to his first baseball game. I bought his first bike. I watched the counter while he ran to the bank last year. I was in the kitchen wearing noise-canceling headphones, updating the baby registry. Day 25, Jessica brought her boyfriend over. He laughed from the cafe counter. "She's crazy," he said, "going full dictator on us. She's gonna ruin her kid's life without us." I stepped out from behind the espresso machine, wiped my hands on a towel, and looked his girlfriend in the eye. She had been at the baby shower, one of the ones holding a red Solo cup while they played beer pong in the corner booth. "You might want to leave," I said, "before I report everyone underage who drank that night, starting with you." She paled. She left. Day 28, the bags appeared. It started small, Jessica's duffel by the stairs, a box of coats near the back door, then another, and another. They didn't say anything. I didn't either. It was happening. Finally. The 30th day came quiet. No arguments, no last-minute apologies. Just the mechanical rhythm of cardboard boxes sliding across hardwood and the occasional creak of the stairs. By noon, half the upstairs apartment was empty. My dad didn't say goodbye. He walked out with a duffel over his shoulder and didn't look back. My mom lingered by the doorway for a while, arms folded, eyes glassy. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I didn't answer. I just nodded like I was agreeing, even though I wasn't. "Family is forever," she added, like it was a curse. I finally spoke, which is exactly why I'm building one that deserves to stay. Jessica was the last to leave. She stood in the cafe's entryway, backpack slung low, attitude still hanging around like smoke from a candle that had long since burned out. "You're lucky, you know," she said. "Now there's no one left to blame for your bitterness." I wiped down the pastry case without looking at her. "Then maybe I'll finally have some peace." She rolled her eyes and walked out. The bell above the cafe door chimed once, then silence. Not the cold kind, not the tense kind. A different kind. The kind that felt earned. I stood in the middle of the cafe, taking in the emptiness. It felt bigger without their things. Brighter, like even the walls were breathing easier. I turned the closed sign around. Then I went upstairs. I folded a few onesies, organized baby bottles, ran my hand along the edge of the crib. Outside, the wind rustled through the awning. I could hear it again, not because it had gotten louder, but because the noise was gone. The secondhand chaos. The constant disrespect disguised as love. The echo of footsteps that never really walked beside me. Just me and the hum of something new. The nursery wasn't perfect. Nothing was, but it was mine. Ours. That night, I fell asleep without headphones. And for the first time in years, I didn't need them. Epilogue. 4 years later, my daughter started preschool last month. She wore a tiny purple backpack and insisted on picking her own shoes. At drop-off, she waved at me like we were old friends. "Don't forget to pick me up, okay?" she said, like I ever could. She's bright, brave, stubborn in the best way. She reminds me of myself. only softer where I was hardened, open where I used to shut down. I run the cafe on reduced hours now. I've hired 2 employees, and last year we hit 6 figures for the first time. I don't hustle like I used to. I don't have to. I built something real, quietly, slowly, on my own terms. We still live upstairs. The walls are covered with art projects and alphabet magnets. There are crumbs on the rug and juice cups on the counter and toy cars under every piece of furniture. But I've never felt more grounded. As for my family, we haven't spoken since the day they left. Not because I'm holding a grudge, because they haven't reached out, and neither have I. But families talk. Cousins whisper at weddings. Ex-in-laws share updates at funerals. From what I've heard, Jessica dropped out after her first semester. Apparently, she couldn't keep up without someone cleaning up after her. My parents moved in with my uncle for a while. That lasted 6 months. Something about unpaid bills, and my mom, well, Dad, now being too much to handle. They're not doing great. And no, I don't feel good about that. But I don't feel guilty either. I gave them every chance. I asked for respect, for help, for space, the bare minimum. They gave none of it. So I stopped giving too. Some people say family is unconditional. I used to think so too. But now, I think respect should be. And when it's not, you have every right to walk away and not look back. Story 2. You don't expect your afternoon to end with a cop knocking on your door, especially not after a quiet day working from home, doing laundry, fixing the garbage disposal, and convincing the Wi-Fi to behave. But that's exactly how mine ended. 2 officers, uniforms crisp, radios buzzing. They said my full name, asked if I was home all morning, and if I knew anything about a hit and run involving my vehicle. My stomach dropped. I actually laughed at first. Like, come on, hit and run? Me? I hadn't left the house all day. I pointed at the driveway, saying, "My SUV hasn't moved." Then I looked. The spot was empty. That cold flush hit my spine. That's when they said it. "Your stepdaughter, Emily, told us you left with the vehicle around 9 a.m., Emily." My heart sank. She'd been hounding us for a car for months. My wife, Nora, kept saying she needed independence. I offered to give Emily driving lessons. She called me overbearing and said I was trying to control her. I stepped outside, hoping the car had just been moved somewhere nearby. Nope, gone. They told me the other person involved, a cyclist, had a broken wrist and a concussion. Not life-threatening, thankfully, but still. Then came the kicker. "She says you were angry," one officer said, "that you two argued, that you hit her before leaving." I just stood there, dumbfounded. I had no words, no breath. Emily had not only taken my car, she was accusing me of assault and pinning a hit and run on me. And your wife confirmed her statement. The other officer added, "That part hit harder than the rest." Nora, my wife, the woman who had breakfast with me that morning, who saw me all morning, who knew I hadn't left the damn house. She backed it up. I was stunned into silence. But eventually, I managed to say, "I didn't leave the house. I didn't touch her. And I didn't take the car." They asked if I'd come with them to answer more questions. I agreed, because I knew I was innocent, and I still believed the truth would win. Yeah, cute thought. At the station I waited. 2 hours. No charges yet, but no answers either. Nora finally came in. Her face pale, not from guilt but from panic. "She's scared," she said quietly. Emily didn't mean for it to go this far. She panicked. She thought you'd know how to handle it. Like, for the family. I blinked. "What?" "She thought you'd fix it. Take the blame. You always know how to clean things up." "You mean she thought I'd sacrifice myself?" I asked, stunned. "She's just a kid," Nora whispered. "She made a mistake." "No," I said. "A mistake is forgetting your homework. This is calculated." Nora reached for my hand. "Please, just for now. We'll fix it later." I pulled away. That was the moment everything snapped. That's when I stopped trying to be the nice guy. It's funny. If you'd asked me a few years ago if I wanted to be a dad, I probably would have shrugged. I wasn't against it, just hadn't really pictured it. Then I met Nora, smart, confident, blunt in a way that felt refreshing. She had a daughter, 13 at the time, and told me up front she wasn't looking for a father for her, just a partner who wouldn't get weird. Cool. I can do not weird. 6 months in, I was helping with homework and learning TikTok trends I regretted ever seeing. I bought groceries, drove Emily to swim practice, paid for braces. I never asked to be called dad. I just showed up every single day. But Emily never warmed up. If anything, she got more hostile as she got older. Every rule became controlling. Every request, a personal attack. Nora always smoothed things over, told me not to take it personally. She's strong-willed, she'd say. Smart. She just needs space. I gave her space, and Saturdays, and gas money, and eventually a used SUV in my name, insured and prepped for when she got her license. She never got her license. Just a speeding ticket that led to a suspension I didn't even know about. The car she crashed? Mine. The one she stole and then claimed I was driving? Yep, that one. After that day at the station, I changed. Not outwardly, not yet. I still made dinner, paid bills, said have a nice day. But inside, I went cold, detached. Nora and Emily had made a choice to sacrifice me for Emily's future. And I realized then, I was never part of this family. Not really. I was a wallet with a heart and a schedule. Convenient, disposable. So I got to work. Quietly. I hired a lawyer, requested security footage, traffic cam videos, text logs, receipts. Every piece of digital evidence I could pull. I froze the joint account, opened a new one in my name, locked down every account they had access to. I didn't scream. I didn't rage. I planned. They wanted a fall guy. I was going to be the reckoning instead. Turns out, when you're accused of a felony, you're allowed to defend yourself. Imagine that. The traffic camera footage, gold. Clear as day, Emily behind the wheel, sunglasses on, laughing, just before running the red light and hitting the cyclist. Even better, her social media trail. Locked down, sure, but her friends weren't as careful. One posted a story, Emily in my car, flashing the keys. Caption, road trip in Steppy's ride. Another, a boomerang of her fake drifting in the driveway. And then, the best piece, a 30-second video from one of her friends, filmed just minutes before the crash. Emily singing along to the radio. Then, her voice saying, "Watch this," as she blew through the light. The video got deleted fast, but someone saved it, sent it to me. Subject line, "Thought you'd want to see this." You were right. I did. Meanwhile, at home, Emily was in full victim mode. Milked a minor bruise on her arm like it was a war wound. Nora walked on eggshells, complaining that I was being distant. "You know," she said one night, "if you'd just gone along with it, things wouldn't be so tense." I smiled. "You're right," I said. That night, I backed up everything. Every file, every video, every screenshot. Delivered it all to my lawyer. 3 days later, the charges against me were dropped. 3 more days after that, Emily got charged, hit and run, filing a false police report, driving without a license. Oh, and Nora? She got flagged for obstruction of justice. Turns out submitting false statements to police isn't just a white lie. That night, when the police returned to question them, Nora looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What did you do?" she asked me, wide-eyed. I sipped my coffee. "You mean, what did you do?" After that second police visit, things got weird in the house. Not loud, not confrontational. Just weird. Emily stopped pretending to be the injured party and locked herself in her room like she was the one under attack. Nora tiptoed around me, still holding out hope that this could all be swept under the rug if I'd just come around. Meanwhile, I quietly froze her out. I still made coffee in the mornings, still said goodnight. But emotionally, I was already out the door. Let me be clear, I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't raise my voice or act petty. But I was done pretending we were anything close to a real family. And if Nora thought she could guilt me into backing down after trying to hang me out to dry for her daughter's mess, she was about to learn who I really was. I called the bank, moved every cent from our joint account into my private one, froze the credit cards she used, reported the car as stolen, because legally, that's exactly what it was. She never had permission to take it, and she definitely didn't have a license. I even called the insurance company, canceled the policy on the SUV, and started a new one, in my name, on my new car, the one Emily would never see the inside of. I scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney. I didn't say a word to Nora, not yet. Let her feel what silence feels like when it's earned. Emily's charges didn't just sit there, either. The DA wasn't interested in working it out. They had video footage, social media receipts, and my lawyer had gift-wrapped the entire timeline in a folder thicker than a high school yearbook. She ended up facing 3 charges: hit and run, false reporting, and driving without a license. And Nora? She wasn't charged officially, but she got a very formal warning. The kind that goes on record. The kind prosecutors mention if things escalate. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy watching the walls close in. But it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about clarity. For years, I thought if I just gave enough time, money, patience, love, that eventually I had earned my place in that family. I was wrong. Turns out, I was just the placeholder until something went wrong. Then, I was the scapegoat. Nora finally confronted me one night, standing in the kitchen like she was working up the courage to say something brave. "You didn't have to go that far," she said. I didn't respond, just sipped my drink. "She's a kid," she said again, as if that excused everything. "She has her whole future ahead of her." I looked at her, calm as ever. "And I don't?" She hesitated. "You're a grown man. You'd survive." That was it. That was the moment I stopped feeling even a drop of guilt, because what she really meant was, you don't matter. Your future, your job, your reputation, all of it is worth less than her comfort. That night, I changed the locks. Legally, I couldn't keep them out forever, but I could take steps. I could protect myself. I also gave them notice, 30 days to move out, 45 if they could prove they had nowhere else to go. They left in 29. Here's the thing no one tells you when you're the guy quietly holding everything together. No one notices until you stop. Emily and Nora had gotten comfortable, used to the lights staying on, the mortgage getting paid, groceries stocked in the fridge. But they'd built their house on my back, and when I stepped away, it all crumbled. Emily moved in with a friend. Last I heard, she was working part-time at a local cafe. Not quite the out-of-state university she'd been bragging about. The court ordered her into community service and counseling. Her therapist probably hears a lot about how unfair everything is. Nora tried staying with her sister, but from what I hear, that lasted about 2 weeks. Apparently, when your sister's tired of hearing about how your husband overreacted to a little lie, you end up couch surfing. She reached out a few times, said we needed to talk, that things went too far. I didn't respond, because they didn't go too far. They went exactly as far as they needed to. Actions have consequences. And for once, I wasn't the one footing the bill. After the dust settled, people started reaching out. My neighbors, the ones who watched me get escorted into a police car, apologized, brought over a bottle of whiskey and said, "Man, I had no idea." Neither did I. I went back to work. I renovated the office, got a dog, started biking again. The quiet in the house? It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. Finally. It's wild how fast things shift once you stop making excuses for people who never gave you the same grace. I gave that family everything. And when it came time to choose between me and a lie, they didn't even hesitate. So now, I don't hesitate either. I protect my peace. Next came the court date. Emily showed up with her attorney, hair curled, mascara slightly smudged, trying hard to look innocent. Nora clutched her hand like her life depended on it. Before we walked in, she pulled me aside one last time. "Please," she said, voice shaking. "Don't let this destroy our family." I looked her in the eye. "There is no family," I said. "You destroyed that the second you decided I didn't matter." And I walked into the courtroom without looking back. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no slamming doors, just quiet. Like a chapter closing, like a lock clicking shut. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Not physically, just emotionally empty. Like no one really wanted to be there. The judge looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Fluorescent lights buzzed quietly overhead. The chairs creaked when anyone shifted. Emily sat in the front row, beside her lawyer, lips tight, eyes red. Nora sat right beside her, hands clenched, like she was holding the world together with her knuckles. I sat behind them, calm, watching, present in a way I hadn't been in a long time. I didn't feel angry anymore, just clear. The judge read the charges, one by one, leaving the scene of an accident, filing a false police report, driving without a valid license. Her lawyer stood, adjusted his tie, and gave the usual speech. Panic, fear, poor judgment, no prior offenses, teenage brain still developing. "You know the drill." Then Emily spoke, voice small, tearful, right on cue. "I didn't think he'd take it this far," she said. "He was always so calm. I thought he'd protect us. Us." That word hit me like a slow-moving train. They never saw me as part of the family. Not really. I was just the fallback plan, the fix-it man, a safety net they didn't think twice about walking all over until I finally let it drop. The judge asked if I wanted to make a statement. I stood. Not for drama, not to gloat, just because I wanted to speak plainly. Like I always had. I spent 6 years trying to be there, I said. Not to replace anyone, not to be a hero, just to be present. I paid for school, clothes, food, phones, insurance. I sat through volleyball games, studied for SATs, drove across town when they needed rides. I paused. No one looked up. I didn't ask for thanks. I never expected to be called dad. I just showed up. And when they needed someone to blame, they picked me. No hesitation, no conversation, just a lie and a signature on a statement. I sat down. That was it. No theatrics, just facts. The judge gave Emily a suspended sentence, no jail time, but a record, community service, and 6 months of mandatory counseling. She also had to write an apology letter to the cyclist she injured. Her out-of-state college dreams? Gone. She'd be staying local, under supervision, while she worked off her time. As for Nora, she didn't face charges. But the DA made a point of saying her actions were deeply troubling, and that if her name showed up on any more false statements, they wouldn't be so lenient next time. It was legal speak for you got lucky. After the hearing, Nora tried one last time to fix what couldn't be fixed. She followed me into the parking lot. "I didn't know what else to do," she said, voice low, like the words hurt her throat. I looked at her. "Yes, you did," I said. "You just didn't want to choose me." She blinked. "She's my daughter, and I was your husband." She didn't respond. I didn't wait for her to. I got into my car, the new one, paid for in full, insured in my name, and parked neatly where no one else could touch it, and drove away. No rage, no closure speech, just a full tank and no one left to lie to. A few weeks passed. They moved out of the house. I didn't make a scene, didn't press charges, didn't smear them online. Just gave them 30 days and let time do the work. They left on day 29. Turns out, they didn't have anywhere else to go. Nora had no savings. Emily had no plan. Everything, the house, the accounts, the credit cards, was in my name, because I trusted them, and they relied on that trust to survive. I heard Nora tried to move in with her sister. That lasted 2 weeks. Emily crashed at a friend's, took a job at a coffee shop, still has that community service to get through. Apparently, she missed a therapy session and had to explain herself to a judge. Reality hits hard when you're used to being the golden child. Nora tried getting more hours at her friend's boutique, but after word got out about the whole hit and run mess, the calls stopped. Even her wine night crew ghosted her. Apparently, framing your husband for a felony doesn't go over well during Pilates. But hey, they made their choices. I didn't need revenge. Life handled that. As for me, I kept the house. Didn't even consider giving it up. I paid the down payment, paid the mortgage. Nora never once put money toward it. The deed? In my name only. She called it our home, but it was always mine. I redid the office. Bought a dog. Picked up cycling again. The silence in the house? It's not hollow. It's peaceful. One of my neighbors, the same guy who watched me get put in the back of a squad car, brought over a bottle of whiskey. "You handled that better than I would have," he said. I didn't say anything, just nodded. Because what was there to say? I gave that family everything, and they decided that protecting a lie was more important than protecting me. So now, I protect myself. I know not everyone agrees with how I handled it. Some folks think I went too far, that I ruined a teenager's future over a mistake. But here's the thing, it wasn't a mistake. A mistake is spilling juice on the carpet. This was a choice, a series of them, calculated, rehearsed. Emily lied. Nora backed it up. And both of them expected me to take the fall, quietly, politely, for the good of the family. I didn't. I walked away with my name cleared, my life intact, and my peace restored. And you know what? That's enough. I don't need them to say sorry. I don't need them to understand. I just need them to stay gone. Story 3. It was 7:23 a.m. when my life split in two. My daughter, Mia, just turned 1 last month, was giggling in her high chair, smearing applesauce across her tray like she was painting a masterpiece. I was halfway through my first coffee when I saw the subject line on my phone screen. Moving forward, I don't know why I opened it right away. Some masochistic instinct, maybe. But as soon as I did, my stomach dropped. There he was, my husband, Eric, grinning ear to ear with a woman who could have passed for a recent college grad, wrapped around him like a throw blanket. They were standing in front of our cabin, the one in Blue Ridge I bought last year, the one I envisioned raising our daughter in, roasting marshmallows on the deck, watching the seasons change together. He was using it as the backdrop for his new chapter. The email was short, clinical, smug. "Hi, Natalie. I have moved into the cabin with Kinsey. My lawyer will be in touch with divorce paperwork. Don't contest anything deeds in my name. Wish you the best." I put my cup down before I threw it. I wasn't shaking because I was afraid. It wasn't sadness either. It was fury. Ice-cold fury. This man really thought he could slide into my inbox like it was a work memo and walk away with a house I bought paid for entirely with money from my tech startup and parade his 23-year-old girlfriend around like he hadn't just nuked our family. I looked at Mia, still babbling, completely unaware. Then at the wedding photo on the wall behind her. 5 years of marriage, boiled down to a subject line and a girlfriend who looked like she still ordered iced caramel macchiatos in a future CEO hoodie. He thought I'd cry, maybe beg, but he didn't know the version of me that built an 8-figure business before I turned 30. The version who'd quietly ensured every major asset I invested in was protected even if Eric thought it was for tax reasons. I opened a reply. "Are you sure about that? You might want to reread the paperwork." I hit send, blocked him, and started planning. We met 6 years ago, back when I was still taking client calls at midnight and coding through migraines. Eric was charming, ambitious, and made a big deal of supporting my little company. He'd brag about how he helped turn it into something legit. Reality? He mostly offered bad ideas and expected a gold star for not standing in my way. He loved to talk like he was the brains, but the numbers never lied. My business had exploded, especially during the pandemic. And when I bought the cabin last fall, I used company funds, my funds. He insisted on adding his name for taxes. I let him. But my lawyer drafted a clause that made the ownership crystal clear. So yeah, Eric may have moved in, but he didn't own anything beyond the furniture he was probably already spilling craft beer on. And just to make sure he couldn't spin this, I pulled up the cabin's security feed. Yep, he had no clue I installed cameras last winter. And just like that, there they were, Eric and Kenzie, coming and going, laughing, drinking wine from my crystal glasses. She even tried on one of my jackets, my jacket, from a weekend boutique in Asheville. That one pushed me closer to war mode than I'd like to admit. As I reviewed the footage, my phone buzzed. A message from Layla, my assistant, Natalie. You need to see this. Attached was a screenshot of Kenzie's Instagram. Public. Dumb move. I tapped the handle. It was a digital crime scene. Photos of her in the cabin, wearing my clothes, using my mugs, captions like weekend in the mountains with my person. And can't believe this is real life. There was even a shot of her holding up my grandmother's ring. The ring Eric and I swore we'd pass down to Mia. I nearly threw my phone across the room. Then the real stomach punch hit. I logged into our joint bank account, the one we set up for Mia's college fund. Eric had drained it, $94,000. Gone. Transferred to some unknown account the day before. I called the bank immediately. Then my lawyer. Then Layla again. We were in war room mode now. In less than 2 hours, I had proof of the cabin being purchased entirely with company funds. Footage of Eric removing business purchased artwork from the cabin. Account transfers that looked a hell of a lot like fraud. And then Layla sent me the kicker. Screenshots from Kenzie's private Facebook group. Apparently she was bragging about scoring a wealthy older guy and how they were going to bleed the clueless wife dry. Her words. Apparently, I was just the sad businesswoman too wrapped up in her little online store to see it coming. Sweetheart, that little online store has a valuation that could buy your entire college campus. By the afternoon, Sarah, my lawyer, was at my place going over the cabin documents. I showed her the security footage and the email thread where Eric acknowledged the purchase came from my company account. She barely blinked. This is slam dunk material, she said, marking pages. He might have signed the deed, but the ownership? That's yours. I nodded. We weren't just going to fight back. We were going to dismantle whatever fragile empire Eric thought he was building with Miss Pumpkin Spice ambitions. Right on cue, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Eric. You think you're so smart. You'll hear from my lawyers. And don't think you're keeping the business either. We both know you wouldn't have built it without me. Oh, Eric, I hadn't even begun yet. More chaos came later that night. Layla discovered something interesting. Kenzie wasn't just Eric's new flame. She was the niece of Robert Grantham, CEO of Monarch Equities, which, conveniently, was the company Eric had been working his big merger with for months. Suddenly, everything clicked. The sudden mood swings, the long weekends working, the timing of the drained accounts, the legal threats about my company. He wasn't just leaving me for someone younger. He was trying to use her to climb the corporate ladder and gut my company in the process. Robert was pushing the merger with a company that just happened to be my fiercest competitor. If Eric got his promotion and the merger went through, they'd get access to market research and tools that I'd spent the last decade perfecting. This wasn't a breakup. This was an ambush. And I had receipts. Rachel, my cybersecurity lead, ran a sweep on our home network. Bingo. Eric had made multiple attempts to access my business servers from his personal laptop. He didn't get through, but he tried. Combine that with the footage, the account transfers, the recorded call, and the online bragging. This was no longer a divorce. This was corporate espionage. and I was done playing nice. The next morning, I brewed my coffee a little stronger. Just felt appropriate. Mia was still asleep upstairs, snuggled with that little bunny plush she refuses to part with. I let the morning light pour into the kitchen as I stared at my inbox. Already 10 emails deep with updates from Sarah and Rachel. We were ready to move. I sent a message to Sarah, time to fire the first shot. She replied immediately, sending now. Full packet to the Monarch board, including screenshots, footage, transaction reports, and Eric's little email tantrum. Let's see how long the CEO stays quiet. But that wasn't the only thing going out. See, I had a little insurance policy. You learn a few things running a tech company. One of them, always keep logs. Always back up communications. And always keep records when someone tries to screw you over with a smile on their face. I'd been collecting files on Monarch for years. Back when Eric asked me to look over his investments, I'd noticed a few things that didn't sit right. Misused client data, shell corporations hiding toxic portfolios. I filed it all away. I never expected to use it. But life's funny like that. Turns out, when your husband steals nearly $300 K, hooks up with his boss's niece, and tries to gut your company while calling you a part-time CEO, you stop feeling bad about blowing things up. Around noon, I got a ping from the security system. Guess who was back at the cabin? Eric, Kenzie, and Uncle Robert himself. They were lugging in boxes like they were prepping for a housewarming. Champagne. Laughter. Kenzie was filming an Instagram story in front of my fireplace. Rachel tapped into the live feed and flipped the audio on. Robert, to the next CFO of Monarch Equities. Eric, couldn't have done it without my girl. Kenzie giggled like she just won a game show. I watched as Eric smugly clinked glasses, then walked off toward the office. My office. The one I set up for myself when I imagined writing books on the weekends. Or maybe finally launching that side wellness brand I'd been dreaming about. Now, it was ground zero for a man trying to hack into my business servers. Rachel turned to me. Want to lock him out? I shook my head. No. Let him log in. Just give him something fake to look at. She smirked. Fake portal with dummy files. He'll think he's found your trade secrets. I nodded. Good. Let him gloat. Let them all celebrate a little longer. Meanwhile, Sarah was working the legal side. She'd found something interesting in our marriage records emails, from Eric bragging to a college buddy about how emasculating it felt to watch me out-earn him. His exact words, she doesn't even ask for advice anymore. It's like I'm just her accessory. I smiled. That one was going straight to court. It didn't stop there. Sarah also uncovered communications between Robert and Eric, discussing the upcoming merger. The part that made my stomach turn? They weren't just planning to poach my clients, they were prepping to replicate everything. Even our eco-sourcing process, which took me 3 years and a dozen countries to develop. Kenzie chimed in on one of the emails too. Her genius contribution? Once Nat's company folds, we'll basically own the ethical market lol. Oh, honey, you can't even spell logistics. I don't know what broke in me that afternoon. Maybe it was seeing the files. Maybe it was the way Eric made himself at home in a life I built. Or maybe it was hearing him refer to my daughter as an inconvenience in a voicemail he left while drunk. Whatever it was, the fire inside me went cold. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was protection. For Mia. For the people on my team who'd stayed loyal through thick and thin. For every woman who ever got told her success was just a cute little hobby until her man took credit for it. Sarah looked at me from across the table. It's time. I opened the draft email addressed to the Monarch Equities Board of Directors. Attached, evidence of corporate espionage, video of Eric removing assets, purchased by my company financial records showing Eric's unauthorized transfers, screenshots of Kenzie mocking me. Online A folder labeled Monarch Ethics Audit, compiled over the last 3 years. We added one final message in the body of the email, Dear Board, I believe you'll want to see this before tomorrow morning's CFO announcement. Best, Natalie Rivers. I hit send. What followed was delicious. 15 minutes later, Robert got a phone call. His face went pale. He walked outside mid-conversation, pacing, shouting something about unauthorized disclosure. Eric rushed out behind him, waving his phone, yelling, "She knew. Natalie knew I was logging in. It's a setup. It's a feeing setup." Kenzie started crying. Not soft, movie-style tears. Ugly crying. Makeup melting, sobbing into her sleeves like a teenager who just found out prom was canceled. Then came the sirens. 2 cruisers pulled up. Officers stepped out. Calm, methodical. They walked right up to the front door. Rachel turned to me. Your timing was chef's kiss. Turns out, stealing nearly $300 K from a shared account and attempting corporate theft qualifies as more than just a messy divorce. By nightfall, Eric was in a holding cell. Robert had been suspended pending investigation. Kenzie deleted her entire social media presence within the hour. And me? I tucked Mia into bed and poured a glass of red wine. I stared at the wedding photo on the shelf, not with sadness, but with a kind of quiet detachment, like looking at someone else's memory. That girl in the photo? She believed in fairy tale endings. The woman sipping wine now? She builds her own. The next day, headlines popped up across every business news outlet. CFO, candidate investigated for corporate espionage. Amid merger scandal, tech entrepreneur. Exposes internal corruption at Monarch Equities. Startup CEO blows whistle. On former husband's fraud gains global support. It went viral. My inbox flooded with press requests. My team started fielding calls from investors, most of them saying the same thing. If this is how you protect your business, we want in. Mia and I spent the weekend at the cabin, our cabin. After everything settled, the deed was fully transferred to my name. Eric's name? Scrubbed, legally and spiritually. I sat on the porch swing, Mia curled on my lap, her bunny clutched in one hand. The mountains were quiet again. No noise, no lies, just peace. And in that moment, I realized something. Eric thought he'd left me with nothing, but I had everything he lacked: integrity, purpose, grit, and a little girl who would grow up watching her mother choose herself, no matter how ugly the betrayal. I wasn't just rebuilding. I was replanting the whole damn forest. A few days after everything blew up, my lawyer Sarah called with a voice like someone who'd just watched karma do its job in 4K. He tried to file a countersuit, she said. Claimed emotional distress. Said you sabotaged his career. I didn't laugh out loud, but I smiled so hard I almost spilled my coffee. And? I asked. Judge tossed it. Said the only person who sabotaged Eric's career was Eric. Poetry. The fallout hit faster than I thought. Monarch's board wasted no time. Robert stepped down 2 days after the email bomb dropped. No press conference, no send-off, just a quiet line in the business section. Grantham resigns amid ethics investigation. Kenzie. She tried to salvage her online image. Posted a black and white story with a sad quote about healing and privacy. But you can't post about scamming someone's wife on Facebook and then play the victim. Internet doesn't forget. 1 week later, she deleted everything. Last I heard, she was back in Michigan, living with her mom, working part-time at a yoga studio. Sometimes I wonder if she tells people why she left Atlanta, or if she just pretends it was all some toxic whirlwind she had nothing to do with. Doesn't matter. That story's not mine to fix. As for Eric, his name became radioactive. No one in finance would touch him. The fraud investigation stuck. The emails, the fake offshore transfers, the attempted breach of my servers, it was too much. Even the rumors were enough to bury him. He called once. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail, though. Said he missed Mia. Said he got caught up and didn't know how to stop the spiral. Said he hoped someday I'd forgive him. I didn't save it. Forgiveness isn't owed. especially not to someone who bet everything on your downfall and still tried to twist the knife when they were caught. The real win wasn't just the legal stuff, it was the way people showed up. Investors who'd hesitated before, now they were all in. People respected how I handled the whole thing. No messy posts, no drama, just facts, receipts, and power moves. Clients came forward saying they'd followed the story and wanted to move their business to my company. Said they were tired of big corporate lies and flashy press conferences. They wanted someone real, someone with values. Funny how your worst moment can become the beginning of something so much bigger. Mia and I fell into our own rhythm. Mornings on the porch, afternoon walks through the pines. I set up a small office in the sunroom at the cabin. It's quiet here, peaceful. No emails at midnight. No husband muttering about mergers while texting his girlfriend behind your back. Just the creak of trees, the warmth of my daughter curled beside me, and the sound of something healing. I kept working, of course. I'm not someone who can sit still long, but I worked different. Smarter, slower. Not everything had to be a sprint. Sometimes I'd get this lump in my throat thinking about what I'd survived, what Mia almost lost. But then she'd look at me with those wide, curious eyes and I'd remember. We didn't lose anything worth keeping. A few months later, I framed something. Not a photo, not an award. Just one printed email. Subject, moving forward. The one Eric sent me the morning he thought he'd won. It hangs in my office now. Above the bookshelf, I don't look at it often. But when I do, it reminds me that sometimes what looks like the end is actually your first real moment of clarity. He wanted me to see it as closure. But that email? That was a door swinging wide open. There's one moment I think about often. That first night after the cops took him away. I was sitting in the living room, rocking Mia to sleep. She had her tiny hand wrapped around my pinky, eyes heavy, breathing soft. And for the first time in what felt like years, I felt still. No fight, no plan, no court filings or emails or betrayal boiling under my skin, just stillness, just her. That's when it hit me. He took the house. I rebuilt a home. He drained our account. I rewrote the books. He walked away from his daughter. I walked into the rest of our life. So no, I didn't burn it all down. I just turned the lights off on his fantasy and walked out the front door with everything that mattered. Final thought. If you're ever in that place where everything feels like it's crashing down, like someone just flipped your life upside down and laughed while doing it, remember this. Let them think they've won. Smile, stay quiet, and build something they never saw coming. Because the best revenge is living a life they'll never be welcome in.